Hey everybody, my name is Jason and I am an ISFP. Thank you for watching my ISFP journey. I appreciate it. I do hope that you will subscribe and continue to follow along with me on this journey of understanding the ISFP personality type as well as other personality types. And I do hope that you'll comment on this video and other videos of mine that you watch because I really am eager to get everyone's interactions so that I can better understand you can better understand me, and we can have better relationships with the people in our lives. Today, I want to talk about an observation that I had, comparing and contrasting extroverted sensing with extroverted intuition. Now, I feel relatively qualified to speak on this subject because not only is extroverted sensing my parent function, or some would say my auxiliary function, my second function, but it is also the parent function of my ISFP daughter. It is the parent function of my ISTP son. And extroverted intuition is the parent function of my INFP wife, along with my INFP son and my INTP daughter. So there are three people in our family, myself included, who have extroverted sensing very high in our function stack. And there are three people in my family, my wife included, who have extroverted intuition very high in their function stack. So I think I've gotten a pretty good sampling of both and can speak on this subject a little bit. So let me first start out by talking about how they're the same. It won't take long because they're not the same in many ways. They're both perceiving functions, so they're both functions that we as human beings use to perceive things outside of, or to perceive things, okay, to take in, gather information. And they're both extroverted, so they are perceiving functions that we use to take in information from outside of ourselves, to perceive things outside of ourselves. In the case of sensing, it's primarily focusing on perceiving the world, people, things in the world, the physical, the tangible, the what is, things that you can see, taste, hear, smell. In the case of extroverted intuition, it's more perceiving the future. It's perceiving ideas, perceiving possibilities, perceiving big thought processes, okay? With extroverted sensing is all about the what is and the here and now. Extroverted intuition is all about the what could be, what might be, and the future. Extroverted sensing is concerned with the details, okay? Let's take a look at it and really see what we can see and understand what we can understand. Extroverted intuition is much more concerned with the big picture, the big overarching idea, not being so bogged down by the details. Extroverted sensing, I think I said this, but extroverted sensing lives in the here and now. Extroverted intuition is very concerned with the future. And extroverted sensing is, I hate to say that it's more grounded, and extroverted intuition is more, philosophical and theoretical, but I don't know really how else to say that. Just know that I don't say that in any sort of critical way. So this is a really interesting observation that I had. At least it was interesting to me. I'm not trying to puff myself up here and say, oh, I'm so profound. Nothing like that. I just found this fascinating the other day. I was driving and something happened that brought this to my mind. So I first want to talk about here a little bit about extroverted intuition. I want you to think about extroverted intuition in the concept of daydreaming, okay? We've all seen a movie or a TV show where there's that scene where it's in a classroom, right? Bunch of kids in the classroom, teacher speaking, teacher asks a question and then calls upon one specific student, and that student is zoned, right? That student is out to lunch. Mentally, physically, that student is sitting in his or her desk, but mentally that student is somewhere else, right? And so the idea there is we all know that concept, that the child in this case is daydreaming. Daydreaming is this idea where someone is so lost in the thought world, they're so lost in the theoretical world, they're so lost in a fantasy world sometimes. I'm not saying it's always a fantasy world, but it can be. They're so lost in their ideas and their thoughts and their imaginations and the possible futures and what could be over the horizon that they have sort of become unaware of their physical surroundings. right? In this scenario, the person in the classroom has become unaware of the fact that he's in a classroom, he's at school, he's surrounded by other students, there's a teacher speaking, he's supposed to be listening to that teacher speak, he's supposed to be taking in that information so that he can process it, use it, repeat it, whatever. He's become so unaware of all of those things. They have become secondary and largely unimportant, secondary to whatever's going on inside of his mind, right? And then, of course, the teacher has to like say, Mr. Smith, or, make some loud noise. And then all of a sudden, boom, the kid snaps back to attention and realizes where he is and that he hasn't heard anything the teacher's been saying. He doesn't know what's going on. And he suddenly becomes re-aware of his physical surroundings, right? And that is like the classical concept of daydreaming. Well, that is a very extroverted intuition reality, okay? So people with high extroverted intuition are often lost in their thoughts. They are creating in their mind all sorts of imaginary worlds in some cases. They're often thinking about the future. They're thinking about all sorts of different possibilities. They might be good possibilities, they might be bad possibilities, but either way, they're considering those things and they just get lost in them. Okay. So, I mean, to put this into perspective, INFPs have a very high extroverted intuition, right? Well, J.R.R. Tolkien was an INFP. Look what he created. He created Lord of the Rings and all of those races and languages and worlds, and they're amazing. And think of how many different books and movies and games and ideas have spun off of that, right? He created that out of his imagination. Or C.S. Lewis, who created Narnia. Many believe he was an INFP. And by the way, let me go back on Tolkien and just say, it is generally accepted or believed that he's an INFP. I don't, it's not like I knew the man or anything. Same way with C.S. Lewis, who created the Chronicles of Narnia and wrote so many great books. If you haven't read C.S. Lewis, you really should. But here again, here's someone, that could get lost in the ideas and create these wonderful imaginations. Now let's contrast that with extroverted sensing. Myself, having extroverted sensing very high in my function stack. I have literally the exact opposite problem. And that is that when I try to think about things, when I try to focus in on some important thing, concept, idea that I want to really mull over and think about and, go through my mind and imagine the possibilities and all that, I get so dialed in on the real and the physical world that I lose track of my thoughts. So it's very difficult for me to remain on some thought process for a long period of time because, the wind blows and a tree moves over here and I'm like, oh, there's a tree moving, or somebody talks over here and I'm like, oh, I'm hearing what they're, wait, there's somebody talking over here, or the TV's on and I'm like, I'm trying to think, but the TV's distracting me, or the music's on, the radio's on, or, anything, a flash of lightning. It could literally be anything, right? I could look down and see that there's a spot on my pants or something. And I'm like, and here I am, I'm trying to focus on some idea and think about it. And then all of a sudden I notice, oh, there's a spot on my pants. And a moment later, whatever I was thinking is gone. So I get so dialed into reality that I lose track of my thoughts. Whereas with extroverted intuition, a person gets so sort of dialed into their thoughts that they lose track of reality. And that is a huge difference between the person who has high extroverted sensing and the person who has high extroverted intuition. And as I was thinking about that the other day, really what was happening was I was driving and I was thinking about something and I don't remember what it was. Something distracted me just on the side. It could be anything, right? People walking down the street, a car going by. It does not matter. And obviously when I'm driving, I should be dialed in anyway, right? We all should be. But just in any circumstance, if I'm really trying to really focus in and think about something, every little detail distracts me. So when I really need to think about something, I usually have to go in my room, close the door, close my eyes if I can, because it's really hard for me to keep my thoughts whenever there's anything at all that could distract me in the physical world. I feel like I think it's from the movie Up, that there's the dog that he's like, no matter what he's doing, a squirrel runs by, he's like, squirrel. That's what it's like for me anyway, to have extroverted sensing, constantly being distracted by every little thing. At church, when I go to church, I love it when we sing songs that I already know, that I have memorized, because I can close my eyes and I can sing those songs from memory. And because everybody else is singing it, all I can hear is the song being sung, nothing to distract my ears for the most part. And because I can close my eyes, there's nothing to distract my eyes. So when we sing new songs at church that I don't know the words to, and I have to look at the words on the the little bulletin or in the hymnal, depending on what we're singing from, it's very frustrating for me, honestly, because every little movement around me is going to distract me. It doesn't matter what it is. Every time somebody, scratches their shoulder, every time somebody, gets a tissue or, whatever, anything they do, it's distracting to me. So I'm constantly looking over here and I'm looking over here, and I don't want to be, I don't mean to be, but I can't seem to get undistracted. Now I contrast that with like my wife, who can be so dialed into what she's thinking about that she can sort of block out the physical world and not hear the commotion and not see all the things going on in front of her. Now, both of these realities, whether you have extroverted intuition high in your function stack or extroverted sensing, you might not have either one very high in your function stack. That's possible. But both of these have their goods and their bads, right? I mean, the ability to block out the physical world and get lost in thought can be a great advantage if you're really wanting to think about things. However, on the other hand, you can get so lost in thought that you fail to notice what's going on around you. And like, the kid is crying or the toaster just caught on fire, and your house burns down because you were so lost in thought you didn't even realize it. On my side of things, on the extroverted sensing side of things, the good of it is, I don't really get taken by surprise by much in the physical world, right? I see it all, I hear it all, I know it's coming for the most part. I'm not saying I never fail, I never miss anything. I'm not saying that. But for the most part, I don't miss things that are going on around me. And that's really cool. That's good, right? I mean, I think that's part of what made me really pretty good at athletics. I played ice hockey when I was younger, and I mean, I wasn't amazing, but I wasn't bad. I think that, being totally dialed into the physical world all of the time can really make someone better at manipulating the physical world. Look at ISTPs, right? I mean, like, they can totally become masters of anything in the physical world. They can get so dialed in. Now, an ISTP, I have a son who's an ISTP. I've seen it in him, but I have my cousin's husband's an ISTP, I think. And I've talked to him, and like, he can get so dialed in on something physical that he's looking at and working on that he loses track of what's going on around him. But still, he's exercising that extroverted sensing on that one item that he's really dialed in on. But where it's a detriment for me is it's so hard for me to really think. It's so hard for me to put in significant thought time into anything. I have to go be alone. I have to shut the door. If possible, if I'm not going to be reading a book or writing something down or something like that, I can turn off the lights, close my eyes, block out all the sound, block out every single distraction, and then I can really do my best thinking. And that is not always convenient, right? That's not always possible. I mean, if you're working at a job and the job requires you to do some serious thinking, you can't be like, okay, all of you other employees and customers, I need you to leave so that I can do my thinking. But for me, that is largely what I need. I don't think well whenever there's stuff going on around me, no matter how minor it is. Like I said, it'd just be squirrel, and there goes a squirrel, and now I'm forgot what I was thinking about, and I'm thinking about squirrels all of a sudden, and it's really frustrating. So I had that that pop into my head the other day, the difference, that one specific difference about extroverted intuition and extroverted sensing, and I wanted to share that with you guys, so that, if you're an ISFP watching these videos, you've got that high extroverted sensing, maybe you can relate. And if you're like me, I have 3 people in my immediate family that have extroverted intuition very high in their function stack. And so, it has a significant role in my family dynamic, and I find it to be extremely fascinating. I hope that you did too. I hope that you liked this video. Please hit the little like button wherever it is over here, and please subscribe. I would really appreciate it if you did. If you have friends who are ISFPs, share these videos with them. I really want everybody's feedback so I can know which of these aspects of what I'm talking about are common among the ISFP, and maybe sometimes it's just the way I am, and it isn't the way all ISFPs are. Let me know what you think in comments, and thank you so much for watching, and have a great day. I really appreciate it. Bye now.